Okay. Wow, thank you very much for that reception. Thank you, Hannah, for that introduction. It's been a pleasure to work in the senior seminar. And I'm really honored to be here. I don't take this lightly, this invitation. I appreciate the respect of the senior class in giving me this invitation. And as provost, I don't get to teach as much. And I often get asked, do I miss teaching? And I do. And what I really, really miss is giving exams. So I've decided to turn the last lecture into the last exam. Or you perhaps can consider this your first final, a practice run for your final. But I decided to do it with a little originality. We're going to do it as a pub quiz, without the pub. And we've invited 3 teams with Gordon-like names, as you can see here, to join us. I'm going to ask the teams to come up and assume their places right now at the front. Now, we picked these teams in advance. Chris Carlson was helpful in picking them, and we assumed everyone showed up. If there are empty chairs here when everyone has sat down, and there might be, anybody that wants to join is welcome to join. The winning team gets iTunes cards. So we got one seat in case anybody wanted to join. Okay. 2 seats, yeah. Okay, good. I do have, in the course of this quiz, I do have 4 themes that I want to underscore about leadership. And I offer these not so much as lectures, but as reminders to all of us, reminders to myself of things that are important. And these tend to be themes that aren't always emphasized when you hear conversations about leadership and service. And I'm hoping that in addition to having some fun, seeing if you can outguess our panelists, we'll have a chance to reflect on things that are important for leadership as well. These are liberal arts questions. They cover a broad span. But just for the fun of it, I threw in a little more movie questions and some sports questions just because I wanted to, just for the fun of it. So to sound our opening theme, I'm going to see if anybody remembers anything about the first convo of the year when I spoke. And this might be an omen whether or not you're going to remember anything that I say. So here you go, team. Here's your first question. They have 15 seconds to decide and hold up the right card. Okay? Okay, question, go. That's a point, that's half a point because I held it up wrong. You're right, it is Inception. And if you remember from that occasion when we saw a scene from Inception, I was underscoring what I think was the important crucible in that film, is the notion that you could imagine without memory, that you could create from scratch without memory. And that's going to be an important theme as we go forward. In fact, we have a couple questions here on memory. And here's your second one. These are the easy ones. Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead. Looks like we got a couple of them right. Okay, just to help you out, we're going to go back to the movies. Okay, our third question related to memory is about a recent film that dealt with memory. When we were talking about memory in the first convocation, we were underscoring the importance of memory for imagination, the importance of origins and understanding origins for originality. And I want to see if you can, if you recognize this particular film. We'll show a clip. A film that came out in 2004 about the erasure of memory. This film explores the lure of wanting to erase the painful memories of the past, which fights against the impulse to retain those memories. And as you see the scene, it's what you are actually seeing in the scene is the memory of a romantic encounter in a beach house, which is taking place in the mind of a character as he is trying to hang on to the memory, even as he's going through an electrical and chemical process to erase it. Do you know the film?
Go.
There's no phone line. What?
I think we should go.
Why? It's our house. Just for tonight. We are David and Ruth Laskin. Which one do you want to be? I prefer to be Ruth, but I'm flexible.
What do you think?
Alcohol.
Oh, boy.
So, are you okay with wine?
I don't know.
Well, you choose the wine. I'm gonna go find the bedroom and slip into something more Ruth. I'm ruthless at the
I
moment.
really should go. I gotta catch my ride.
So go.
I did. I thought maybe you were a nut. But you were excited.
I wish you'd stayed.
I wish I'd stayed too. Now I wish I'd stayed. I wish I'd done a lot of things. I wish I'd stayed. I do.
Well, I came back downstairs and you were gone.
I walked out. I walked out the door.
Why?
I don't know. I felt like a scared little kid. I was like, it was above my head. I don't know.
You were scared?
Yeah. I thought you knew that about me. I ran back to the bonfire, trying to outrun my humiliation, I think.
Was it something I said?
Yeah. You said so go. With such disdain, you know?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Jolie? What if you stayed this time?
I walked out the door. There's no memory left.
Come back and make up a goodbye at least. Let's pretend we had one. Bye, Joel.
I love you.
Maybe in one time.
I didn't crash the plane. The plane crashed. I didn't.
Name the movie. Turn around so they can see. Yeah, you can see. You're right. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is one of several films. It's in an interesting trend about films that are portraying the desire to erase memory. Something that's actually becoming increasingly possible, moving from the realms of science fiction to the possibilities for significant intervention to erase painful memories. So in many ways, the trend in films, I think, is reflecting a contemporary moment and some anxiety as well as optimism about what science can do. But I do think it's also representative of another troublesome trend, and that is something of a desire to be preoccupied with the happiness of the moment and to erase the past. And actually, I think one of the important tasks for leadership at a place like Gordon College, at a place like your family, your churches, the worlds in which you work, is to try to enrich the long-term memory of your organization. We do a lot to stress the moment. We blog, we're immersed in instant communication. We stress the importance of moving quickly from the sorrows that we might have suffered in our life. We even talk about an abundant life and a new life, as if the past can be totally eliminated. And as you see in films like this, there's this tension between whether or not erasing the past actually creates greater human capacity for love and understanding than retaining the past and understanding the past with its tragic incidences, with its complexities and its problems. I think one of the important things that any leader can do is to help an organization constantly set its mission in a longer-term memory. Let's take Gordon College, for example. It's easy to be obsessed with Gordon College. It's easy to be obsessed even with our place as an evangelical institution, as if somehow that defines the full limits of who we are and what we can become, without understanding that we have a moment that is part of a longer continuity of history, a longer continuity of God's work among God's people. And retaining within the community some understanding of the complexities that survive from the past, the psychological complexities, the historical complexities, the shame of the past, as well as the unfulfilled opportunity of the past, is, I think, one of the most important things that you can do as a leader to enlarge the context in which your people live and work. So the stories that you tell, the stories that you approve and that you allow your community to consider and bring forward, are ways that continually connect us to some sense of a longer-term memory and move us away from the moment in which we exist now, as if that moment becomes myopic and totally preoccupying. So as you think about the various roles, even in the work that you do, perhaps at a club at Gordon or work at your church, how are you enlarging the context in which people understand what they do? How are you enlarging their sense of what are the moral complexities and the implications of what they do, and not simply focus on the success or the accomplishment of your project at that particular moment? We need to resist the eradication of memory that sometimes takes place through overly reductive things that we do in branding and in marketing organizations and institutions, as if we can reduce the complexity of the human experience with all its tragedy, with all its potential, into something which is simplistic and trite for the purposes of controlling the actions and behaviors of individuals. One of the greatest gifts that you can give as a Christian and as a leader to the church, one of the greatest gifts a place like Gordon College can give, is to try to enrich the long-term memory of our organizations. Let's go forward to a couple other questions here. Question 4 and question 5 and 6 will introduce a new theme. So here you go. The Bible department is here in full force, so the pressure is on. Take a shot. You're doing well. Doing well. We'll talk just a second about David, Jonathan, and Mephibosheth. Okay, next one. What for the following groups of nations has the highest percentage of Christians? Okay, take a shot. Okay, C. How many were surprised by that? Okay, obviously this group, yeah. We tend to think sometimes the United States as in many ways, a leading Christian nation in the world and don't recognize the high percentage of believers that exist in other places around the globe. And then in being a Christian, we are part of a global community and not simply our own church. Let's try your next one. Let's see if this is a test to see if any of you actually do footnotes. It's a test for the faculty, too, to see if any of them actually assign papers that require footnotes. Yeah. Hey, take a shot. What's your answer? Yeah. It's A. Yeah. Yeah. Second chance. Yeah. In the same place. Of course, those of you that have used IBID know that it refers to a source that comes, source that just comes previously. I'm going to relate these three questions to my next suggestion for leadership. Do your research to praise. Praise is one of the most important things that you can do as a leader. But sometimes we praise indiscriminately. We have a tendency to give encouraging words that can be empty platitudes. And sometimes you can only praise the things that relate to your own experience of working within a community. You praise what you know from direct experience. And at times I think it becomes difficult to distinguish praise from flattery, particularly when we think of praise as being something that's used to build a particular relationship, rather than praise as something that's used to build a community. It's interesting that when we give a written assignment, a research paper, we expect documentation. We even come up with Latin phrases and Latin terms for it to help you document your sources, to acknowledge your intellectual debt to others in making your particular argument. We don't always train as well a community to understand, to express its indebtedness to other people, to predecessors and to peers. One suggestion I often give to new academic officers and new administrators when they come into a position of leadership is praise your predecessor. And you will be stepping into roles where you will be succeeding individuals. And let me tell you, there is such a tendency when you step into those roles to celebrate sort of a new vision that you might have. I hear people saying, I'm there to correct the mistakes of the past. I'm finding all these problems I'm resolving. And we forget at times to celebrate the good work that's been done prior to our coming into a position. We forget that there are people in the community that might have admired and understood what the predecessor was doing and the complexities under which sometimes a predecessor operated and worked. So my question for any leader is whether or not they have the charity and the intellectual capacity to really study what a predecessor has done well and to celebrate that. But the same thing is true for your peers. It's easy to focus on just the people that you know and the things that come easily to you. It's more difficult to actually do the research about a community to find out what is praiseworthy. Because giving praise is one of the best ways of not only affirming someone and making them feel valued for what they do, but actually encouraging the kinds of behavior and the kinds of performances that will enrich the community. One of your best ways of expressing the mission of an institution, the mission of an organization, the purposes of a church or a family, is to celebrate the best work among its people and to allow that celebration to project what the possibilities might be. But it takes work, like a research paper. I was fortunate in one of early administrative jobs as associate dean to work for a dean in which he gave me the task of saying, go and find out within the faculty great things that are happening, good work that is done that I don't know about. Be my eyes for me. Help me understand the unknown story of the quiet person that has done significant work so that we can celebrate and call attention to that. Help me know precisely and specifically what someone does well, so that we can celebrate, just not in some kind of generic way, but that we can actually call attention with specificity to what they do. I know the difference when somebody comes up and says something broadly generic about work I've done, like good job or you're doing good work, et cetera, and those are always nice. You hear those comments. But there's a certain power when they're able to come and to identify specifically one thing that you did. It could be even a phrase in something that you wrote. It could be a comment that you made at a particular session. It could be a problem that you had a creative solution for. And as a leader, knowing with that specificity what people do well and calling attention to it is one of the most powerful ways of creating a sense of community that's focused around key missions and goals. Praise takes work. It's not something that's done simplistically at the end of hard work. You need critique, you need to point out ways to improve, but one of the best ways in some ways to advance a critical vision of how an institution should get better would be to isolate and identify those moments where good work is done and to celebrate what its potential could be if it were multiplied and expanded. So my point is to be prepared to celebrate and to see it like a research project. I threw the question in there about the church because I think it's important for us to understand that our peers in the Christian faith are not simply the peers in our own culture. We know our own cultures. We don't always know. We may hear the statistics. You may see statistics about Mexico and the Philippines having large bodies of Christians, or of Korea. What do we know? What research have we done to really know specifically about what is powerful and effective in those churches and what is going well? And can we, among fellow believers, celebrate and share that particular vision? So do your work, do your homework when it comes time to praise. A couple sports questions. See. The sports guys. All right? For 400 meters. Eric Little, obviously the topic of Chariots of Fire, set the world record in 47.6 meters. How many have seen the movie? Okay, quite a few. Another sports question. This is one of my shots, yeah. I don't have doubts that all those people would have missed that many times if they were given the opportunity. But not everyone has that opportunity. All right? Michael Jordan's famous comment about the number of times that he missed, which is going to underscore a third point. Prepare to fail. I'm not sure we talk enough about failure and the importance of failure. In many ways, I worry sometimes that we may even have a tendency to insulate people from the possibilities of failure. I know as a parent, I can be guilty of that. I don't want my children to fail. I want to rush and protect them at the possibility that they'll falter in some ways. I'm interested in their grade point averages. I'm interested in their success on the athletic field. I'm interested in the quality of their relationships. And I don't want things to go wrong. I want them to have high levels of success. I have to be careful with it that I'm not denying my own children, as we would deny our own students, the important lesson that failure is important for success. I always like the quote from Thomas Edison, who spent many days trying to work out the incandescent light bulb. And he said, I never failed. I just found 10,000 ways it didn't work. That's important. It's important to have the courage and the capacity to take risks, to try to develop that program that doesn't get support to try to accomplish something. And I've failed often in my life. I've written things that haven't been published. I've pursued opportunities that haven't been given. I've been given opportunities to compete for things athletically that I've not won. I never made any of my lifelong goals. I always put them beyond my grasp in athletics. In fact, when I fail, one thing that I've often done is to return to a scene that I'm going to show you from Chariots of Fire. I always loved the film Chariots of Fire. I was a track runner. I was a half miler, ran cross country, and I loved Chariots of Fire from the moment I saw it because I grew up in the beach area of Southern California, and we used to go down and run on the beaches, and there was a sense of camaraderie as we ran from pier to pier, and if you've seen the movie, you know that opening scene with the music surging. What I sense in that is not triumph, but camaraderie, the special joy of being together, regardless of whether we're going to win and lose. And Chariots of Fire, which has its elements of melodrama and sensationalism, also does things well. It gets running right. And it gets failure right. And this scene, which we're going to show you now, is a scene that juxtaposes words of assurance from Scripture with images of failure on the track. Eric Liddell, who lost many races before winning the Olympics, is preaching in church at the time we see other Olympic competition. So let's go to it now.
My text this afternoon is taken from Isaiah, chapter 40. Behold, the nations are as a drop in the bucket, and are counted as the small dust in the balance. All nations before him are as nothing. They are counted to him less than nothing. Vanity. He bringeth the princes to nothing. He maketh the judges of the earth as a vanity. Hast thou not known? Hast thou not heard that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary?
Juvenile! I know, Sam.
He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no strength he increaseth might. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint.
In much of your life, you will fail. In fact, if you're striving for things that are significant, if you're striving to bring about greater justice in the world, you will find resistance. If you're striving for things that are major goals that may be beyond your grasp early on, or things that require significant creativity and invention to be able to achieve, you will fail. So how do you renew your strength during those times? How do you find comfort? Part of it, I think, is what we talked about at the beginning, the importance of taking the long view, that long memory, to understand that the work that you're doing does not guarantee success in the moment, but may be contributing to a larger community. And to find that renewal in the community. I can't tell you how important it has been at times when I've been feeling broken, unsuccessful, and have struggled, how much the comfort and community of members of this college have been to me when they have come, not in a way to be condescendingly pitying, but to stand alongside someone and say, be patient, persevere, renew your strength. And sometimes that sense of being a part of a community is important for you to get away from the self-absorption which is possible when you are constantly pursuing success on your own terms. Prepare yourself for failure in anticipation by knowing that good work sometimes meets resistance, but prepare yourself by failure by surrounding yourself and placing yourself in the company of people who can speak to you with courage and with straightforwardness and with support during those times. Great art is also renewing to me. You can take reassurance in the greatest literature, in film and in art, that conveys that the significant causes often meet resistance, and significant accomplishment is often a long time in coming, and we need to have our strength renewed. That our God is a God of history, not just of this particular moment in time. We are not assured success at this moment, and our task is not to succeed, but to be faithful to that. So prepare yourself for failure by having confidence in the long view, in God's goodness over time, and to free yourself of the expectation that you will be insulated from failure, from pain, and from disappointment. A few questions for our final theme. We'll see how our team does here. All right, time's up. We did pretty well. And the last one. All right, time's up. It's Rembrandt. Jerry, who won? Far Side? Yeah, Far Side. The Coyotes, congratulations. But let me linger here as we close on this final theme. Importance for leadership. Study forgiveness. I don't think it's said enough that one of the most important things that you'll have to do if you're in a leadership role is to resolve conflict. And I'm not so sure we do enough to study forgiveness. I put the question in here about Desmond Tutu and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa. One of the more significant geopolitical efforts to accomplish forgiveness in a country which had been wrenched apart by apartheid. And we can say sometimes study forgiveness in a simplistic way, as if all we need to do is just forgive and forget and move forward. But that's not what we mean by study forgiveness. Forgiveness is hard work. In fact, I think one of the most significant ways in which Christians can contribute to the discussions about justice in the world is to underscore the efficacy or the importance of forgiveness. And the ways that we know from the scriptural record as well as the interventions of the church at times in the work around the world where forgiveness can make a difference. Let me just use this final image from Rembrandt's Return of the Prodigal Son as an image of forgiveness. What I've always found powerful about this, in addition to many things, is the ways in which the central figures of the Father and Son, are both different and merge into one figure. You see the Father with the full hair, the beard, and the Son whose head is shaven. You see the Father with sort of the wealthy mantle on his shoulders, the shawl on his shoulders. You see the bare feet, and the brokenness of the Son. And yet if you see them, they're also merging into one figure. See it as a composite figure. There's a Father, there are two hands in that image. There are 2 feet. The hands of the Father, the feet of the Son. The eyes of the Father are closed, not in some kind of condescending, triumphant accepting of the child back, but of just pure emotion of gratitude that someone has returned. I love the open-fingered embrace, the sense that the Father is pulling the Son closest to him, but not with the kind of iron grip that's controlling, but is allowing the person the kind of space to ease back into his Father's presence, into his Father's world. I think there's an emotional richness in a painting like this I think is instructive for us. How do we create opportunities for forgiveness and reconciliation that allow individuals to come back and to be embraced by us with understanding, with appreciation for their suffering and for their difference, without simply submission to our control? How do we understand how we can learn about someone's experience or the brokenness that might exist between 2 people so that we can understand more fully how they can be connected? In short, the importance, I think, for a place like Gordon, or for the place that is any way concerned with trying to be a Christian in this world, is how do you balance memory and hope? How are you able to look honestly at the past, the record of brokenness, the record of tragedy that needs to be overcome, the record of complexity that's still ill-resolved, and commit yourself to be hopeful, even though you will fail, even though you will not accomplish everything in your own personal objective, but understanding that you're part of something larger, and that is the work of God in this world among the people who follow Christ. Hope and memory are the things that summarize in so many significant ways for me what a place like Gordon College can be about. And it's why I have so much enjoyed being a part of this community during the great times and during the tough times. And I hope that's an experience that we're able to communicate and share with you as those of you finish here or continue here. Well, thank you for being here. I wish you well on your real exams as you go from here. Perhaps this is a warm-up. Thank our panelists, and God bless you as you move forward.